Welcome to the program. You can get interactive with us on all social media platforms at TV3 Ghana. The details now. The Councillor of the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Sir Samuel S. Jonah, has emphasized that the effectiveness of the fight against illegal mining is not dependent on the existence of laws, but on the willingness and capability of institutions to enforce these laws. Speaking at the annual general meeting of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana in Takoradi, he expressed his bewilderment at why the responsible of institutions often appear powerless in addressing illegal mining issues.
Against small-scale mining. What I am against is the manner in which the laws of the country are flouted with impunity to destroy water bodies and the soils and the environment for the many so that just a few can make money. Illegal mining is not about the lack of laws. It's about the will to want to enforce the laws. The law is very clear. You cannot mine within a certain distance proximity of a water body. The law is very clear about how you dispose of your waste from your mining activities. The law is very clear on lawful activities in forest reserves. The law is also very clear. Foreigners cannot engage in small-scale mining. And for those who are licensed, the law requires regular reporting to the Minerals Commission and other regulatory bodies, which is expected to be monitoring activities. So in the age of drones, the Minerals Commission should be capable of monitoring all mining activities in real time. How is it then possible that the Minerals Commission seems powerless to stop the activities the people are seeing and suffering from? What is going on? Why are those empowered to protect the people looking on or away whilst these heinous activities destroying the very basis of life in our communities are going on?
The military task force and other security agencies in Boko municipality have convened a meeting between the Kusasis and the Mampusis to broker peace in the area. The meeting concluded with an agreement to hold a joint peace walk within a week, symbolizing their readiness to embrace peace.
General's reports on the public accounts of technical universities and second cycle institutions for 2021 in Sunyai during the second zone public hearing. The issue arose when representatives from Kumasi Technical University, including the Director of Finance, Registrar, Vice Chancellor and other managers, appeared before the committee to address infractions cited against the university in the Auditor General's report.
There is a need for us to bring the two bodies together.
The leader of the military task force, Colonel Entry Iwadakwa, discussed the negative effect of conflict on the region during his presentation. Critical concerns were about the circulation of insult-related social media audios.
We believe that this time going forward, we mean our words as leaders, take responsibility of whatever happens within the community, and going forward, things will be better. We are saying we are rebranding Boko. In the midst of the challenges, in the middle of the disputes, because of our future generation, the children that we brought up on earth, the environment that we have to protect, and everything that we need to sustain ourselves.
Both ethnic groups expressed their commitment to peace and urged the military and security agencies to ensure free movement within and between the Boko township.
And how many of us can get escort to Boku, Garu, Boku, Pusga, Boku, Sankras? My suggestion is that the joint task force can really make people in Boku community move without escort. It will help the situation so much.
We need not to preach virtue and practice vice. We should be straightforward. We shouldn't come here, sit, discuss well, bring out the good points. We go back and we go to do something that we have discussed here.
Thousands of residents in Boko and its environs have fled the area due to the protracted chieftaincy conflict. Many businesses and institutions, including banks, courts, schools and more, had relocated from the central business district of Boko.
Let's do politics now. The election committee of the New Patriotic Party has rescheduled balloting for flag-bearer candidates until the committee has resolved outstanding issues with the Superdelegate Conference. After a meeting on Wednesday, spokesperson of the committee, Alexander Afenyomakin, indicated that the committee will incorporate proposals from the candidates before releasing its final report.
After a meeting which lasted over 5 hours, 2 aspirants and the representatives of the other 2 emerged from the meeting with the Electoral Committee. Spokesperson Alexander Panyomaking apprised the media of the deliberations.
We received some proposals. We deliberated on same and have agreed to incorporate as part of the guidelines for the November 4th elections.
Kennedy Ejapon is requesting for the disparate proceedings against him to be scrapped, a strong condemnation of the acts of intimidation in the election, and a rescission of the National Council decision to allow government officials to be polling agents in the November 4th polls.
We have also received the withdrawal letter officially by Honorable Chemante, and the party has accepted the withdrawal without prejudice.
The Electoral Committee will convene another meeting with the candidates next week.
Ghana and other African nations have called for new debt relief measures in global financial market to prevent economic collapse. The proposal, which forms part of the final declaration after the just-ended Africa Climate Summit, has set a 2025 target to change dynamics in the ability of countries to access credit. My colleague Eric Mawena-Egbeta reports.
After 3 days of extensive conversations amongst leaders on the African continent, state actors, non-state actors, players from the private sector, the Nairobi Declaration is finally out. Key amongst the reforms being sought by African leaders in this new financial architecture is the introduction of debt pause clauses for African countries. Also, the mention of an expert review of the common framework for debt sustainability analysis, as witnessed in the case of Ghana before it got staff-level approval of its IMF program. Also of important notice is the push to have the introduction of a carbon tax, with taxes placed on companies, industries dealing directly in fossil fuel trade. For Kenyan President William Ruto, who read out the declaration, the time is now for the reforms needed to make Africa break free of the shackles of indebtedness.
We are therefore determined to have difficult conversations, take hard decisions, and make uncomfortable changes to set international consensus on an Afrocentric and globally inclusive path into an African future.
With a new push by African leaders, there are those who raise the concern that this could be an excuse for African leaders to go onto the international capital market and just borrow more for consumption. A position sadly supported by the Christian community of Africa, who are demanding transparency in all of the financing of climate action.
Your Excellencies, as people of faith, we continue to pray and act rightly for the common good of all, while calling for greater transparency in climate finance management. It is greatly going to be beneficial if a mechanism like what was used during the Global Fund to combat HIV, malaria, and TB, the country coordinating mechanism, is very important, and if we can institute that.
The finally accepted resolution is that this summit will continue after today, with African leaders coming to a head to have it organized every 2 years. Eric Mawena-Egbeta, TV3 News, Kenyatta International Convention Center, Nairobi, Kenya.
Back to the capital, Accra, and on health. The General Hospital Redevelopment Project in Accra is in the news again 3 years after the old facility was pulled down. The Health Minister, Kwekwajiman Menu, at a news briefing says government has secured a new funding sources for commencement of work on the project, which was earmarked to have been completed in 2022. My colleague Sarah Pencron has the rest of the story.
The La General Hospital was demolished in July 2020 following reports of severe structural problems. Its demolition is to pave way for a redevelopment project to serve residents better. However, despite series of complaints and agitations from residents, the project is yet to see the light of day after a series of promises from government. The Health Minister, Kweku Ajiman-Menu, at a media briefing, has again assured residents of the completion of the project.
We started working seriously on LA, and we still have contractors' materials sitting on site. We are now shifting the source of funding. We've virtually completed negotiations. We are getting reinforced designs and things like that. And soon, that is why I said LA will come back on stream. And the contractor is even still on site. Only that funds flow has made it slow down a little bit. But we are shifting the source of funding, and soon some good work will commence in LA. And that will relieve me a lot from the criticisms that I've faced for pulling down LA.
The project site remains deserted and weedy. Residents are, however, unperturbed.
Stories be brave. We've heard this countless times. We want him to come and start the work.
Yeah, send your press conference and
if money come or money no come, let them come and do the thing. Action speaks louder than word.
I don't believe them. We are tired. If it's true there's money, then they should come and build the facility. They should deliver on their promise.
We'll keep following up on this development until the project is finally completed. Sarah Apenkro, TV3 News, Accra.
You're still watching the morning news with me, Godwin Asedeba. The Ghana Armed Forces is cautioning the public about the widespread fake recruitment scam on social media, where criminals create accounts to deceive and lure individuals with promises of alleged security service recruitment.
Flooded their Facebook and social media platforms with convincing pictures of military training activities, as well as images of prominent and popular Ghanaian individuals. They claim to be selling forms and scratch cards for online recruitment into all the security agencies. They list specific age brackets and academic qualifications, with the West African Senior High School Certificate Examination (WASSCE) being the minimum requirement. Additionally, they list calls for technical and vocational applicants in various categories. However, upon verification with the Ghana Armed Forces Command at Burma Camp, the said advertisement has been flagged as fake. Director of the Public Affairs Directorate, Brigadier General Eric Agrikwashi, issued a warning to the public in a phone conversation. He urged individuals to be cautious of such publications. He emphasized that all genuine recruitment into the security agencies start with public announcements in major state media, including the Daily Graphic and Ghanaian Times. Brigadier General Agrikwashi reminded the public that anyone who falls for the tricks of these scammers does so at their own risk. He also assured the public that plans are underway to identify the suspects behind these fraudulent practices and bring them to justice.
Let's do some sports news now. The Ghana Football Association President, Keto Kreku, could be set for another term in office after the Elections Committee of the association disqualified the man thought to be his main challenger, George Afriyie. Sports journalist Jerome Ochri has joined us to help us understand this bit and more on this particular developing story. Jerome, good morning.
Good morning.
So first of all, what was the main reason for the disqualification of Afriyie?
So according to the vetting committee, one of the people who endorsed the candidature of George Afriyie wasn't fit to do that endorsement. And for that reason, George Afriyie has been disqualified. But as you well know, he has the opportunity to go on appeal within the next 3 days. And I'm very sure George will do that.
But what does the disqualification mean to him and his team?
Well, it's more like a setback, but I would say it's a temporary one, because once he has a room to go for appeal, I'm sure he is going to take advantage of that and correct or seek to reverse what the vetting committee has done. And we will have to wait for the outcome of that appeal. But definitely he's going to look at where he went wrong and seek to correct it.
Are there any chances that he will succeed and appeal if filed?
Well, we cannot tell. But once he believes that he did nothing wrong, and some of us have had contact with him, he believes that the vetting committee is wrong, and he will seek to show why he believes they are wrong. And that should give him a chance of coming back into the race.
All right, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Jerome Ochre is a sports journalist here in Ghana. Let's do some international news now. Nigeria's Presidential Election Tribunal has rejected an opposition challenge to Bola Tinubu's win in February disputed vote. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Peter Obi of the Labour Party, who come second and third respectively, had asked the court to invalidate the election, alleging irregularities. Atiku and Obi can appeal to the country's Supreme Court to strike down the tribunal's ruling. Any appeal must be concluded within 60 days of the date of the tribunal judgment.